Opening quotation now.
Time begins. Thirty seconds. One minute.
In the Disney movie Encanto, Mirabelle is seeking a change in her life. She wants to know what's coming in her life. She doesn't know what her power was, what it could have been, and she finds out at the end of the movie that her power was to bring her family together. She worked really hard to figure out what she was supposed to do with her life. So that leads me into my quote today of, you can cut all the flowers, but you cannot keep spring from coming. And I believe that this quote is trying to say, just keep moving. And we can agree with this quote by looking at two different arguments. We can look at how moving can lead to change and how change can lead to happiness. So looking at my first point of moving can lead to change. So if we just keep moving, eventually there can be some change out of our actions. We just have to keep moving through our life to see this change. So we can look at this through two different examples. We can look at Martin Luther King Jr. and we can look at Betty White. Martin Luther King Jr. is a civil rights activist who looked at his life and how he wanted to have this dream of where his little white boys and little black boys can hold hands, and girls. They can all work together, and he did this by keep on moving through his peaceful protests and by giving out these motivational speeches, so that way people could come together and work together to create a change in our society, which led to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We can also look at Betty White. Now, Betty White is an animal rights activist. She knew from a very young age that she wanted to work with animals. She originally wanted to be a zookeeper or a zoologist and work with the animals at the zoo. She did many things throughout her life as she was an actor and kept donating things to zoos, such as the LA Zoo, who made her a contributor and a chair on their board of committee to take care of the LA Zoo animals. She even kept moving by giving out her life to supporting animals, and eventually led to a lot of change in society, such as when she saved the penguins from Antarctica when the icebergs were melting by paying for a private jet to go out to get them. This leads me into my second quote, or second argument of change can lead to happiness. Now we can look at this through two different examples. Now we can look at Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, and we can look at Walt Disney. With Mark Zuckerberg, he began looking at this construction of Facebook. He wanted college students to be able to communicate with one another and share what they're doing. And he began to have these ideas. And he began to make this huge change by making this Facebook social media. Now, maybe this social media is used highly today by many people all the way across the world, and Facebook is a highly known social media source, which I know leads not to my happiness to know how my family is doing across the country. Now, this happiness can be shared by lots of people around the country. Now that leads me into my second argument of Walt Disney. Walt Disney was an animator who had this Mickey Mouse cartoon idea, and he loved this idea. And he went to many different animatronics and people to go try to publish his Mickey Mouse work. Yet he was denied all the time. So he decided to do something about it, and he created his own company. And now it's a largely wide known company, which is known as the happiest place on earth. The Disney World, Disneyland, Universal, it all goes together, and it is still, they create movies today, such as Encanto, that people love to look at and love to see, and it creates a happiness and a joy. So now going all the way back to our quote today from Pablo Neruda, a Chilean poet, saying, "You can cut all the flowers, but you cannot keep spring from coming." I interpret this quote as keep moving. And we could agree with it by looking at how moving can lead to change through Martin Luther King Jr. and Betty White, and how change can lead to happiness by looking at Mark Zuckerberg's invention of Facebook and how Walt Disney brought us Disney Universe. Mirabelle worked hard through her change in order to create a new and happy life for her and her family. She wasn't sure how she was going to create this change, but even in the beginning of the movie, she said, "I don't need a power, I have my family." And she just kept working and working towards this in order to create a change and to create happiness among her family.